I used to think the scariest things in life were the ones that look dangerous. Dark alleys, empty parking garages, strangers in hoodies walking too close behind you. I was wrong. The scariest thing that ever happened to me looked completely normal. It started on a Tuesday. Nothing dramatic, no storm, no power outage, just a regular boring Tuesday in late October. I left work a little after 8 p.m., later than usual because my manager needed help closing. The air had that cold edge to it, the kind that makes your breath visible under the streetlights. I remember because I was irritated. I just wanted to go home, microwave leftovers, and binge something mindless. The parking lot behind our building is poorly lit. It's not unsafe exactly, just dim enough to make everything look slightly off. I parked near the back that day because the front spots were full. When I stepped outside, I noticed him immediately. He was standing near the dumpster at the edge of the lot, not digging through it, not smoking, just standing there. He wasn't dressed like someone who didn't belong. Jeans, light jacket, clean sneakers, maybe mid-30s, dark hair. He looked average. That's the only word I can use, completely average. He glanced at me once, then looked away. I told myself I was being dramatic. People exist. People stay in places. I started walking toward my car, keys already threaded between my fingers, the way that everyone does when they don't want to admit they're nervous. Halfway there, I heard footsteps behind me, not running, just walking, steady. I didn't turn around right away. I told myself he was probably headed to his own car. Then I heard his voice. "Hey, excuse me." My stomach dropped. I turned. He was closer than I expected, maybe 10 feet away. "Yeah?" I said, trying to sound casual. "Sorry to bother you," he said, smiling. "Do you know if there's a gas station within walking distance?" His voice was calm, polite, almost gentle. "There's one about a mile that way," I said, pointing toward the main road, "but not really walking distance." He nodded slowly. "Yeah, my car died. Thought I'd try my luck." I glanced around the lot. There were only 3 other cars, none with the hood up, none with hazard lights on. "Oh," I said, "that sucks." There was a pause. Then he said, "Would you mind giving me a ride?" There it was, that shift, subtle but heavy. I forced a small laugh. "I'm sorry, I can't. I'm heading the opposite direction." He held my gaze for just a second too long. "Right," he said, and he smiled again. But this time it didn't reach his eyes. I unlocked my car, got in, and locked the doors immediately. As I pulled out of the parking lot, I checked my rearview mirror. He was still standing there, watching. I told myself that was the end of it. It wasn't. The first sign something was wrong happened the next morning. I walked out of my apartment building around 7:30 a.m., coffee in hand, half awake, and there he was, sitting in a silver sedan across the street, engine off, just parked. I recognized him instantly. Same jacket, same face. He wasn't looking at me first. He was looking down at his phone. But as soon as I stepped off the curb, he looked up, and our eyes met. My brain scrambled for logic. Coincidence? Big city? People live places. Maybe he lived nearby. He didn't smile this time. He just watched. I pretended not to notice, got into my car, drove to work. I checked my mirrors 3 times. No silver sedan. I felt stupid for being scared. Until lunch. I walked to the cafe across the street from my office. It's usually crowded. That day it wasn't. I ordered, turned around to find a seat, and froze. He was sitting at a small table near the window, looking at me. Not surprised, not confused, like he'd been expecting me. I felt the air leave my lungs. He raised his hand slightly, a small wave. I didn't wave back. I grabbed my coffee and walked straight out. I didn't eat that day. I told myself I was overreacting. Maybe he worked nearby. Maybe this was all some weird coincidence stacked on coincidence. That night, I took a different route home. Halfway there, I noticed headlights behind me. Silver sedan. I changed lanes, so did he. I slowed down. He slowed down. My heart started pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I took a sudden right turn without signaling. He turned too. That's when I knew. This wasn't random. He followed me for 6 blocks. I didn't drive home. Instead, I drove straight to a busy grocery store parking lot and parked near the entrance. The silver sedan slowed as it passed. He didn't stop, he didn't wave, he just kept driving. I sat in my car for 20 minutes, hands shaking. When I finally got home, I double-checked every lock. That night, I barely slept. The next morning, I filed a police report. They asked me if he threatened me. No. Touched me? No. Spoken to me since the parking lot? No. They were polite, but I could tell. Without a threat, without proof, without something concrete, there wasn't much they could do. Document everything, the officer said. If he approaches you again, call immediately. So I started documenting. Day 3, silver sedan parked down the block. Day 4, missed call from a private number at 9:12 p.m. Day 5, footsteps in the hallway outside my apartment at 11:47 p.m. Slow, pausing near my door. That was the worst part, the waiting, the not knowing. He never banged on the door, never shouted, just presence. Like he was letting me know he could. On day 7, something changed. I came home from work and found a small white envelope taped to my door. No stamp, no address, just my name written in black ink. My hands went numb. I took it inside and locked the door before opening it. Inside was a single piece of paper, 3 words. You look tired. I dropped it like it burned me. I hadn't told anyone about the cafe or the grocery store or the nights I stayed up with every light on. He was watching closely enough to notice changes. That meant proximity. That meant he'd been close. Too close. I called the police again. This time they took it more seriously. They increased patrols in the area, told me to stay somewhere else for a few nights if I could. I stayed with my sister across town. For 2 days, nothing happened. No car, no calls, no footsteps. I almost convinced myself it was over, until my sister's neighbor knocked on her door. He said a man had been sitting in a silver sedan outside for hours the day before, engine off, just sitting. He left before anyone confronted him. I felt something inside me that night shift. Fear turned into something sharper, anger. I was tired of being hunted, so I did something I probably shouldn't have. When I saw the silver sedan parked outside my apartment again 3 days later, I didn't hide. I walked straight toward it. My heart was racing so violently I thought I might pass out. He saw me coming. For the first time, he looked startled. I stopped 3 feet from his driver's side window. He rolled it down slowly. Up close, he looked normal, almost handsome. Soft features, clear skin, calm eyes. What do you want? I asked. His expression was neutral. I don't know what you mean. Why are you following me? He tilted his head slightly. I'm not. I felt rage bubble up. You've been outside my home, my job, my sister's house. He didn't react to that. Didn't look surprised. I knew. He just studied my face. You shouldn't walk alone at night, he said quietly. A chill went down my spine. Excuse me? It's not safe, he continued. You never check behind you soon enough. The world seemed to tilt. You've been testing me? I whispered. A small smile formed. I've been observing. I took a step back. Why? He held my gaze. Because I like patterns, and you break yours when you're scared. That was it. No confession, no dramatic threat, just that. I stepped away from the car. I've reported you, I said. He shrugged lightly. I haven't done anything. And he was right, technically. I walked back into my building without looking back. The next 2 days were quiet, too quiet. No car, no footsteps, no calls. On the 3rd night, around 2 a.m., I woke up to a sound. A soft metallic click. My bedroom window. I live on the 2nd floor. My body went rigid. Another soft sound. The faint scrape of something against the glass. I didn't move, didn't breathe. Then I heard it, a whisper. Now you're checking. I screamed. The police arrived in under 5 minutes. He was gone, but they found marks on the fire escape and partial fingerprints on the window frame. Not enough for an arrest, but enough for a restraining order. He disappeared after that. No car, no notes, no sightings. It's been 8 months. I moved, changed my number, installed cameras. I check behind me now, every time. The scariest part? He never touched me, never broke in, never physically hurt me, but he changed something permanent in me. I don't walk to my car without scanning reflections in windows. I don't sit near cafe windows anymore. And sometimes, when I wake up in the middle of the night, I still hear that whisper in my head. Now you're checking. I don't know what he wanted. Maybe control, maybe fear, maybe just the satisfaction of knowing he could reach into someone's life without ever technically crossing the line. And that's what makes it terrifying. Because people like him don't look like monsters. They look average, polite, normal, and they're out there, watching. Okay, this one still makes me feel stupid when I tell it, because if I had trusted my gut 5 minutes earlier, none of it would have happened. It started with a favor. My coworker Jenna asked if I could drop off some paperwork at her uncle's place after work. He owned a small auto shop about 20 minutes outside town. She was sick, the documents were time sensitive, and I was headed that direction anyway. I wasn't, but I said yes. It was late November, dark by 5 p.m., the kind of cold that makes the world feel smaller. I plugged the address into my GPS and drove out past the strip malls, past the neighborhoods until the streetlights thinned and the road narrowed into 2 lanes surrounded by trees. The shop was at the end of a gravel driveway. No other buildings nearby. Just a squat metal garage with 2 roll-up doors and a flickering light over a side entrance. I almost turned around right then. The place wasn't abandoned, but it looked like it wanted to be. I told myself I was being dramatic. I parked, grabbed the envelope, and walked to the side door. It was slightly open. That's when my stomach dipped. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again, louder. Hello? The inside smelled like oil and metal. The lights were on. A radio was playing softly somewhere in the back. I stepped inside. Jenna sent me, I called out. I have the paperwork. A man's voice answered from deep in the shop. Back here. It was calm, older, rough. I walked past tool benches and car parts. My footsteps echoed too loudly. He was standing near the back wall, partially hidden behind a truck up on a lift. Mid-50s maybe, thick gray beard, ball cap, grease-stained jacket. He didn't smile. You Jenna's friend? He asked. Yeah, I said, holding the envelope. She said you needed this tonight. He didn't take it. Instead, he stepped closer, slowly. You drove all the way out here for this? Yeah. He looked toward the open side door, then back at me. That's nice of you. The way he said it made my skin prickle. I forced a polite smile. Well, I should get going. He finally took the envelope, but instead of opening it, he set it down on a nearby table without looking at it. Then he reached into his pocket. My pulse spiked. He pulled out his phone. I just want to call Jenna, he said casually. Make sure you're really who you say you are. That seemed reasonable, but he didn't dial. He just held the phone in his hand, watching me. You can call her, I said. He tilted his head slightly. You nervous? No. You look nervous. The air felt heavier. I'm just cold, I said quickly. He nodded slowly. You came alone? There it was, that shift. Subtle, but sharp. Yes, I said automatically, and immediately regretted it. He smiled faintly. You shouldn't come out places like this alone. My heart started thudding in my ears. I took a step backward. Well, I've got to head out. He didn't move, didn't block me, but he didn't step aside either. Instead, he asked, You tell anyone you were coming? Yes, I lied. My boyfriend's waiting for me. Another slight smile. Good. The way he said it made my blood run cold. Good. Like that changed something. Like that mattered. We stood there for a few seconds too long. Then, from somewhere outside, headlights swept across inside of the wall of the garage. Another car pulling into the driveway. His eyes flicked toward the light, just for a second. And in that second, something in his expression changed. I can't explain it fully. It wasn't anger. It wasn't disappointment. He stepped back. You better get going, he said quietly. I didn't wait. I walked fast. Not running, just fast. I got in my car, locked the doors, and started the engine immediately. As I backed out, I saw another truck parked near the entrance. A younger guy got out, carrying a toolbox. Normal, ordinary, like nothing strange had happened at all. I drove home shaking. I told Jenna the next day that her uncle was a little intense. She frowned. My uncle? Yeah, the auto shop. She stared at me. My uncle doesn't own an auto shop. My chest went hollow. What? I don't have an uncle in this state, she said slowly. I emailed the paperwork to my actual uncle in Arizona yesterday. The room started spinning. I showed her the text she'd sent me with the address. Her face went pale. That's not my number, she whispered. It looked like her name in my contacts, but the number was off by 1 digit, just one. Someone had texted me from a number almost identical to hers, using her name, asking for a favor that sounded reasonable, giving me an address outside town. I felt sick. We went to the police. They traced the number, burner phone, already deactivated. When they checked the address, the auto shop had been vacant for almost 6 months, no registered owner. The electricity was technically still active under an old account that hadn't been shut off yet. The man I met, no cameras on the road leading in, no fingerprints found inside, nothing. The younger guy who pulled in, they couldn't confirm anyone else had been there. For all I know, he was just a random mechanic using the space illegally, or he was part of it. That's the part that keeps me up. The headlights changed something. When he thought I was alone and unaccounted for, his posture was different. When he thought someone might show up looking for me, everything shifted. Good, he'd said when I mentioned my boyfriend. Not annoyed, not frustrated, relieved, like there were rules, like he didn't want complications, like he wanted someone no one would miss immediately. I still don't know how he got my number, or how he knew I worked with Jenna, or how he knew enough to mimic her tone. But I changed my number the next day. And I don't do favors anymore without calling to confirm. The scariest part isn't that he threatened me. He didn't. He never touched me. He never raised his voice. He just asked questions, calm, ordinary questions, and waited to see how alone I was. Sometimes I replay it in my head. What if no one had pulled into that driveway? What if I hadn't lied about someone waiting for me? What if I'd laughed and said, no, nobody knows I'm here? I don't think he would have attacked me immediately. I think he would have made it seem gradual, friendly, inviting. Come see something in the back. Help me move this. Can you hand me that tool? That's what scares me. Not violence, but the patience, the testing, the quiet evaluation of whether anyone would come looking. I think about that flickering light above the door sometimes, and the way he didn't look surprised to see me, like he'd been expecting someone, just not sure who. And I wonder how many people turned around before walking inside, and how many didn't. I used to rent the upstairs unit of a duplex on a quiet street. It was the kind of neighborhood where nothing really happened. Retired couples, a few young families, porch lights that turned on at dusk and stayed on all night. I felt safe there, too safe. The downstairs unit had been empty for about 2 months when I moved in. The landlord told me someone would be renting it soon, but weeks went by and no one ever did. I barely thought about it, until the night I started hearing the knocking. The first time I assumed it was pipes. It was around 11:30 p.m. I was lying in bed scrolling on my phone when I heard 3 soft thuds. They sounded like they came from below me. I held still listening. Nothing. I told myself it was the heating system kicking on. Then, about a minute later, same rhythm, evenly spaced, not random, intentional. I sat up. It wasn't loud enough to be someone pounding on a door. It was softer, controlled, like someone tapping on a wall. I crept into the hallway and stood over the spot that would have been the downstairs living room. Silence. I felt ridiculous. I went back to bed. At 12:07 a.m., it happened again. My stomach tightened. This time, I grabbed my phone and recorded a video, just in case. I wanted proof I wasn't imagining it. I waited. 2 minutes later, I heard it, clear as day. The next morning, I texted my landlord. Hey, is someone doing work in the downstairs unit? He replied almost immediately. No, it's still vacant. I stared at the message. Are you sure? I typed back. Positive, why? I told him about the knocking. He said it was probably plumbing. It wasn't plumbing. Plumbing doesn't knock in patterns. That night, I stayed up later than usual. At exactly 11:30 p.m., I stood in the hallway, lights off, phone recording, and right on schedule. I heard it. It came from directly beneath my feet, not from the walls, not from the pipes, from below. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I drove by after work and noticed something I hadn't before. The downstairs blinds. One of them had shifted slightly upward, just enough to see inside. I had walked past that window dozens of times. The blinds were always fully closed. Now there was a gap, maybe an inch wide. I felt a wave of unease roll through me. I told myself someone could have shown the unit. Maybe your realtor had come by. I called my landlord again. Did anyone tour the downstairs yesterday? No, he said. Why? I didn't answer right away. That night, the knocking didn't happen. I almost felt relieved. Until 2:14 a.m., my bedroom floor vibrated slightly. Then, just one knock directly under my bed. I stopped breathing. 10 seconds passed, then another single knock, and then another. 3 separate taps, slower this time, deliberate, like someone testing to see if I was awake. I slid out of bed as quietly as I could and crouched near the door. My heart was pounding so loudly I was sure whoever was below could hear it. There were no voices, no music, no movement, just stillness. The next day, I called the landlord again and insisted he check the unit. He sounded annoyed, but he agreed. We met there that afternoon. He unlocked the downstairs door. The air inside smelled stale, dusty. It was empty. No furniture, no boxes, no signs of someone living there. We walked through every room. Nothing looked disturbed until we got to the ceiling in the living room. Right in the center of the ceiling were 3 small dents side by side in a line, like someone had hit it from below with something hard. I felt lightheaded. Probably old damage, the landlord muttered. It wasn't there before, I said. He didn't respond. He left after that, clearly thinking I was overreacting. I decided to buy a cheap security camera and pointed it toward the floor of my bedroom that night. At 11:29 p.m., I sat in the living room and watched the live feed on my phone. 11:30, nothing. 11:31, nothing. 11:32. The camera shook slightly, just a tiny vibration. Then, faint but visible, the floorboard beneath my bed shifted upward a fraction of an inch, like pressure from underneath. Then, 3 small bumps from below. The floor moved each time. I felt like I was going to throw up. There was someone under me, not metaphorically, physically, under my floor. The next morning, I didn't call the landlord. I called the police. They came within 20 minutes. 2 officers knocked on the downstairs door. No answer. They unlocked it with the landlord's spare key. We all stood in the empty living room. One officer looked up at the ceiling dents. Interesting, he murmured. They searched the entire unit. Closets, bathroom, utility room, nothing. Then one of them noticed something near the back hallway. A small square panel in the floor. It blended in with the old wood, almost invisible unless you were looking for it. They pried it open. Underneath was a crawl space, just enough room for someone to lie flat and move around. The beam from the officer's flashlight cut through the darkness, and there, in the dirt beneath my bedroom, were flattened impressions, like someone had been lying there repeatedly. There were also empty water bottles, a thin blanket, and a small hammer. My knees buckled. The officer climbed partway down and shined the light toward the underside of my bedroom floor. 3 faint circular marks, right beneath where my bed sat. He'd been under me, listening, testing, tapping to see if I reacted. The crawl space connected to the back of the property through a narrow vent, just wide enough for someone thin to squeeze through. They never caught him. No usable fingerprints, no DNA in the system. But based on the flattened dirt, he'd been there for weeks, maybe longer. The timing of the knocks, 11:30, the same time every night, like he was checking in, seeing if I'd notice, seeing if I'd respond. The officer later told me something that made it worse. If he was tapping under your bed, he said, he knew exactly where you slept. I moved out that weekend. I didn't even pack properly. I just left. What haunts me isn't just that someone was under my floor. It's that he was patient. He didn't try to break in, didn't rush. He was studying me, learning my routine, testing my awareness. And if I hadn't bought that camera, if I'd kept dismissing it as pipes, how long would he have stayed down there? Sometimes I wake up at exactly 11:30 p.m. My body does it automatically now. And for half a second, before I remember I don't live there anymore, I swear I can feel it, that faint vibration, like someone gently knocking, just to see if I'm awake. I never used to believe in gut feelings. I believed in logic, evidence, and rational explanations. That changed because of a man named Daniel. I met him at a coffee shop I went to almost every Saturday morning. Same order, same table near the window, same routine. He started sitting at the table next to mine, not in a weird way at first. It was a small place, limited seating. The first time he spoke to me, it was normal. "You always get the vanilla latte." I looked up surprised. He smiled. "Sorry, I've just noticed. I come here a lot too." That should have been harmless. It felt harmless. I laughed. "Yeah, I'm predictable." He introduced himself. Daniel, early 30s, worked in tech, recently moved to the area. He was polite, soft-spoken, made steady eye contact, but not too much. We talked for maybe 10 minutes before I left. Nothing strange. The next Saturday, he was there again. This time, he was already sitting at my usual table. "Oh," he said, standing quickly. "Sorry, I didn't realize." "It's fine," I said. "You can stay." We shared the table. We talked longer that day. Movies, work, travel. He was easy to talk to. Attentive, almost too attentive. When I mentioned I'd grown up in a small town 2 hours away, he nodded. "I figured you weren't originally from here." "How?" "You paused before saying street names," he said casually, like you're still translating them. It was such a small observation, but it unsettled me. Still, I brushed it off. By the third week, he didn't wait for coincidence. He texted me Friday night. "See you tomorrow morning?" I don't remember giving him my number. I must have. That's what I told myself. I must have. Saturday morning, he already had my drink waiting when I walked in. "I ordered it for you," he said, smiling. "Hope that's okay." It was sweet, thoughtful, right? Except I hadn't told him what size I got, and he got it exactly right. I felt a flicker of something, but I ignored it, because everything else about him seemed fine. We started seeing each other outside the cafe, dinner once, a walk through a park, a movie. He never pushed, never crossed lines. He just observed. One night we were walking back to my apartment building. I stopped abruptly. "How did you know I live here?" He blinked. "You told me." "No," I said slowly. "I didn't." He hesitated, then laughed lightly. "You mentioned the neighborhood, I guess." That didn't make sense. My building wasn't visible from the main road. You had to turn into a small side lot, but I didn't push it. I should have. The real shift happened 2 weeks later. I had a bad day at work, a private kind of bad day. I didn't tell anyone. That evening, Daniel texted. "Rough day?" I stared at the screen. "How do you know?" I replied. "Just a feeling," he wrote back. I didn't respond. Instead, I scrolled through my social media. I hadn't posted anything, hadn't liked anything, hadn't updated anything. There was no way he could have known, unless he saw me. The next morning, I tested something. I took a different route to work. I left 15 minutes earlier than usual. I didn't text him. I didn't go to the cafe. At 9:17 a.m., I got a message. "Running early today?" My hands went cold. "How would you know that?" I typed. No response. 10 minutes later. "Blue looks good on you." I looked down. I was wearing a blue sweater. I scanned the street around me. People walking, cars passing, no one obvious. My breathing turned shallow. I called him. It rang once, twice. Then he answered. "Hey, where are you?" I demanded. "Work." "Where?" "Why?" "Because you just commented on what I'm wearing." He paused. Then he chuckled softly. "I drove past you earlier. Didn't want to interrupt." I felt sick. "You were near my office?" "Relax," he said. "I just like seeing you." That sentence, the way he said it, not romantic, possessive. I hung up. I didn't block him yet. I wanted proof. That night, I closed all my blinds before turning on any lights. At 8:42 p.m., my phone buzzed. "You don't have to hide." My stomach dropped so violently I had to sit down. I didn't reply. Another message came. "I'm not outside right now." Right now? That meant he had been. I turned off every light and sat in the darkness. My heart pounded in my ears. After a few minutes, I peeked through the smallest crack in the blinds. Across the street, parked between two SUVs, a dark gray car, engine off, headlights off, but I could see the faint outline of someone in the driver's seat, watching my building. I didn't confront him. I called the police. By the time they arrived, the car was gone. Of course. The next day I did something I should have done weeks earlier. I searched his full name. What I found made my blood run cold. He'd been arrested 2 years prior for harassment. Another woman, similar pattern, frequenting places she went. Coincidental run-ins. No physical violence, just escalation. Charges dropped due to lack of evidence. I blocked him on everything, changed my number, alerted my building manager, installed cameras. For a week, nothing happened. Then one evening, I got home from work and found something on my doorstep. A vanilla latte, still warm. No note, no name, just my exact order. I didn't drink it. I threw it away, and I moved out within a month. The police couldn't do much. He never threatened me directly. He never touched me. He just positioned himself close enough to let me know he could. That's the part that still gets to me. Not aggression, precision. The careful study of my routines. The small comments designed to make me question what he knew. Sometimes I replay our early conversations, all those sweet observations, all those little details he remembered. I used to think that kind of attention meant someone cared. Now I know it can mean something else entirely. Sometimes care and control look almost identical at first, and the scariest people aren't the ones who chase you. They're the ones who quietly rearrange their life so it overlaps with yours so perfectly that it takes you too long to realize that it's an accident. I need to say this first. Nothing supernatural happened. No ghost, no monsters, just a person. And that's why it still feels wrong when I think about it. Because it could happen to anyone. It started the night my car broke down. I was driving home from visiting my mom. It was late, close to midnight, and I'd taken the back highway to avoid traffic. There aren't many exits out there, just long stretches of road and patches of trees. My engine started making a grinding sound, then the dashboard lit up, then everything died. I coasted onto the shoulder, heart pounding. No service, of course. I sat there for a minute, hazard lights blinking, trying not to panic. Every car that passed felt too fast, too loud. After about 5 minutes, headlights slowed behind me. A pickup truck. It pulled over about 20 feet back. I froze. The driver's door opened. A man stepped out. Mid-40s maybe. Heavy jacket, baseball cap, work boots. He walked toward my window, hands visible. I cracked it an inch. "You okay?" he asked. His voice was low and calm. "Car died," I said. "No signal." He nodded, glancing at my dashboard. "I live a few miles up," he said. "I can give you a ride to call someone." Every alarm bell in my body went off. But what were my options? It was freezing, pitch black, no cell service. "I can wait for a tow," I said weakly. He looked up and down the empty highway. "Out here?" he asked quietly. "Might be hours." A car flew past, rocking my vehicle slightly. I hated how he sounded. He stepped back from my window. "I won't force you," he said, "but it's not safe sitting here." That word, safe, like he was the safe option. I stared at my dead phone, then at the dark trees lining the road, then at him. He kept his distance, didn't rush me. That almost made it worse. "Okay," I said finally. He nodded once. I grabbed my bag and locked my car. His truck smelled like gasoline and something metallic. There were tools in the back seat, a coil of rope, a tarp, normal things. I told myself they were normal things. He drove without talking for a few minutes. The road narrowed, turned from pavement to gravel. "I thought you lived off the highway," I said. "I do," he replied. "Shortcut." I checked my phone again. Still no service. The trees got thicker, the darkness deeper. "How much farther?" I asked. "Couple minutes." I tried to memorize turns. Left at the broken fence, right at a rusted mailbox, another right. Then we stopped. There was a house, if you could call it that. Small, isolated, no neighboring lights. Only one porch light flickering. "Come on," he said. I stepped out slowly. The night was so quiet it felt heavy. Inside the house was tidy, not messy, not chaotic. That somehow made it worse. He handed me a landline phone. There you go. I dialed my sister's number from memory. It rang and rang and rang. No answer. I hung up. Try again, he said. I did. Still nothing. She's probably asleep, I whispered. He watched me closely. You can wait here, he said. Warm up. I didn't want to sit. I didn't want to relax. I'll just keep trying, I said. He nodded, then walked into the kitchen. I heard a drawer open. When he came back, he was holding 2 mugs. Tea, he said. I didn't take it. I'm okay. He set it down anyway. You're shaking. I wasn't sure if it was cold or fear. I dialed again. No answer. He leaned against the wall, arms crossed. You tell anyone where you were tonight? He asked casually. My mom, I said quickly, and my sister. He tilted his head slightly. They know this route? Yes. That was a lie. He held my gaze for a long second, then nodded slowly. Silence filled the room. Too thick, too deliberate. Then, my phone buzzed. I jumped. 1 bar of service. A text from my sister. Sorry, just saw this. You okay? Relief hit so hard I almost cried. I'm fine, I said quickly. Car died. At a house near... The signal dropped. Message failed. My stomach twisted. He saw the change in my face. No signal? He asked softly. Not enough. He stepped closer. Not aggressively, just closer. You know, he said quietly, a lot of people wouldn't have stopped. I didn't respond. I did, he continued. That counts for something. Yes, I said quickly. Thank you. He studied me. You're scared? It wasn't a question. I'm just tired. He gave a faint smile. You don't trust me. I swallowed. I don't know you. That's fair. He stepped even closer, close enough that I could smell oil and soap on his jacket. But you got in my truck. My heart started racing. I didn't have much choice. He nodded. Everyone has a choice. Then he said something that still makes my skin crawl. I wanted to see if you'd choose me. My blood went cold. What? He didn't blink. Some people don't, he said calmly. They wait, or they run, or they call someone before I can offer. I felt the room tilt. How many people? I whispered. He smiled faintly. I didn't say that. The front porch light flickered through the window. I took a slow step back. I need to go outside, I said. Maybe I can get a signal closer to the road. He didn't block me, but he didn't move either. It's very dark out there, he said softly. I'll be quick. We stood there for what felt like minutes. Then, headlights swept across the front of the house. Bright, sudden. He turned his head sharply. A car slowed on the road outside, not turning in, just passing, but close enough to light up the yard. He looked back at me, and something in his expression shifted. Annoyance, calculation. You should call a tow from the highway, he said suddenly. I blinked. What? I'll drive you back to your car. The abrupt change made my stomach drop. Why? He shrugged. Didn't realize it was that late. That didn't make sense. It had been late the whole time, but I didn't argue. We got back into his truck. He drove faster this time. No small talk, no detours. When we reached my car, I got out immediately. Thank you, I said. He nodded once. Then he said quietly, almost to himself, You're lucky someone drove by. My entire body went cold. What does that mean? He looked at me, and for the first time, there was no softness, no politeness, just something empty. It means, he said evenly, you shouldn't break down out here again. Then he drove away. I stood there shaking until another car passed. Once I had signal, I called a tow. The next morning, I told the police everything. They searched the area near where he turned off. There was a house, registered to a man who'd inherited it from his father. No criminal record, no prior reports. But when they searched the property, they found fresh tire tracks near the back of the lot and disturbed soil in a patch of ground behind the shed. They never told me more than that, just that they were looking into it. I don't know what he meant when he said I was lucky. I don't know what would have happened if that car hadn't driven past. Maybe nothing. Maybe he just liked scaring people. Or maybe I wasn't the first to sit in the kitchen holding a dead phone. What I do know is this: he didn't seem angry that I left. He seemed disappointed, like a test had almost gone the way he wanted. And sometimes when I drive at night and see someone pulled over on the side of the road, I feel this horrible mix of empathy and dread, because I know how easy it is to accept help, and I know how calm someone can sound when they're deciding whether you're alone enough. All right, this one still makes me question my own memory, because for a while I thought I imagined it. I didn't. It started after my breakup. 3 years together, shared apartments, shared friends, shared routines. When it ended, he moved out fast, took his clothes, his desk, his stupid collection of vinyl records. What he didn't take were the spare keys. At least I thought he didn't. For the first week, everything felt normal. Quiet, but normal. I changed the Wi-Fi password, deleted our photos, rearranged the living room so it didn't look like ours anymore. The first strange thing was small. I keep my shoes lined up by the door. I'm weird about it. Sneakers, boots, work shoes, always in the same order. One night I came home and my sneakers were switched. Not thrown around, just swapped. Left shoe where the right one should be. I stared at them for a full minute. I told myself I must have done it rushing out that morning. I fixed them. The next night, my bathroom light was on when I got home. I'm obsessive about turning lights off. Still, I told myself I'd forgotten. Then I found the toilet seat up. He used to leave it up. That hit me in the chest. I stood there, staring at it, heart pounding. He wouldn't. We ended badly, but not like that, right? I texted him. Did you come by the apartment? No, he replied immediately. Why would I? I didn't answer. Instead, I checked the front door. Locked. Windows closed. Nothing looked forced. That night, I barely slept. Around 2 a.m., I heard it. A soft metallic click, like the sound of a key turning gently in a lock. I sat upright in bed. Silence. Then the faintest sound of the front door opening. Slowly. Carefully. My heart started hammering so violently I thought I might black out. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911, but didn't hit call yet. I listened. Footsteps. Not heavy, measured, like someone trying not to make noise. They stopped in the living room. I held my breath. Then, a creak. The hallway floorboard outside my bedroom. I felt tears prick my eyes. The doorknob moved slightly. Not enough to open, just enough to test it. I always lock my bedroom door at night. Always. The handle rattled once, then stopped. Silence again. I waited. 5 minutes. 10. 20. Finally, I heard the front door close. Softly and gently. Like whoever it was didn't want to wake me. I didn't move until sunlight filled the room. When I walked into the living room, nothing looked disturbed. Except one thing. The framed photo of me and my ex that I'd shoved into a drawer. It was sitting on the coffee table, face up. I called the police. They found no sign of forced entry, which meant one thing. Whoever came in and had a key. I changed the locks that day, every single one. I installed a camera in the living room. For a few nights, nothing happened. I almost convinced myself it had been stress, grief. My brain playing tricks on me. Until Thursday, I came home from work and smelled cologne. Not mine, not new, his, the exact brand he'd worn for years. It hit me so hard I had to sit down. I checked the camera footage immediately. The feed from 1:13 p.m. showed my living room, empty. Then, the door opened. No struggle, no damage. It just unlocked and opened, and he walked in. It was him. Same jacket, same posture. He looked thinner. He stepped inside slowly, like he belonged there. My hand started shaking so badly, I almost dropped my phone. He walked around the living room, touched the back of the couch, picked up a throw pillow, sat down. He just sat there for 11 minutes, doing nothing. Just sitting in my apartment. Then he stood up, walked into the hallway, and disappeared from the camera's view. I fast forwarded. He came back out 3 minutes later, holding something. It leaned closer to the screen. It was one of my shirts. He lifted it to his face, closed his eyes, then put it back exactly where it had been. He left at 1:27 p.m., locked the door behind him. I couldn't breathe. I called the police again. This time I had proof. They went to his new place. He admitted he still had a spare key, said he just wanted closure, said he missed the space. Missed the space, they warned him. Told him to stay away. He returned the key. I changed the locks again anyway. And for 2 weeks, nothing happened. Then one night, I woke up at 3:03 a.m. No sound, no reason, just awake. That heavy feeling in your chest like something's wrong. I turned my head slowly toward the bedroom door. It was open. I always lock it, always. It was open about 3 inches, and the hallway light was on. I hadn't left it on. My heart started slamming against my ribs. I reached for my phone and froze because I wasn't alone in the room. I didn't see him at first. I felt him, that awareness, like being watched from too close. Then my eyes adjusted. He was sitting in the chair in the corner of my bedroom in the dark, watching me sleep. I couldn't move. He didn't move either. For a full 5 seconds, we just stared at each other. Then he whispered, "I just wanted to see if you still lock it." My blood turned to ice. I scrambled for my phone. He stood up quickly. "Don't," he said softly. "I won't hurt you." He said it like reassurance, like I should be grateful. "You changed the locks," he continued. "That hurt." My entire body was shaking. "How did you get in?" I choked out. He gave a faint smile. "You forgot about the black window." I had. The old latch never worked properly. He took one slow step backward toward the door. "I just needed to know," he said quietly. "Know what?" "If you were scared of me yet." I hit the emergency call button. He slipped out of the room. By the time police arrived, he was gone. They arrested him 2 days later. Apparently, he'd been parking down the street at night, watching, waiting for my lights to go off. He told them he wasn't going to do anything, then that he just wanted to feel close again. I moved. New city, new locks, security system. But here's the part that stays with me. When I think about that moment, waking up and seeing him sitting there, what scares me the most isn't that he broke in. It's that he'd possibly done it before. That maybe it wasn't the first time he stood in my doorway. Maybe it was just the first time I woke up. And sometimes when I wake up randomly at 3:03 a.m., I don't open my eyes right away because part of me is terrified that one day I will. This one is hard to tell because the worst part wasn't what he did, it was what he almost did and how close I came to letting it happen. It was during a snowstorm, the kind that shuts everything down. Roads half plowed, visibility low, the world quiet and muffled like it's holding its breath. I was driving home from a late shift at the hospital. I should have stayed overnight, but I just wanted my own bed. About 10 miles from home, traffic slowed to a crawl, then stopped. Accident ahead. Cars idling in both directions. Snow coming down harder by the minute. After 20 minutes of not moving, I noticed the SUV behind me flashing its lights. I ignored it. Then the driver got out. Tall, broad shoulders, heavy coat, beanie pulled low. He knocked on my window. I cracked it slightly. "You've got something dragging under your car," he said, raising his voice over the wind. My stomach dropped. "What?" "I saw it a few miles back. Looks like plastic or metal. Could mess up your axle." That made my pulse spike. I hadn't hit anything, had I? "Are you sure?" I asked. He nodded. "I can take a look. Might just need to pull it loose." I hesitated. We were surrounded by other cars. People, headlights everywhere. This wasn't some empty road. I unlocked the door and stepped out. The cold hit me instantly. He crouched near the back of my car. "Yeah," he muttered. "See it?" I stepped closer. I didn't see anything. "Where?" I asked. "Here." He shifted slightly. "You've got to get lower." Something in me screamed not to, but I crouched anyway. He moved behind me, too close. I felt it before I understood it. His hand hovering near my back, not touching, just hovering, like he was measuring distance. Actually, he said suddenly, it's hard to see with the snow. You might want to pull up onto the shoulder. There isn't one, I said. He stood slowly. You could back up. I'll guide you. I looked around. Cars boxed us in. There was nowhere to go. That's okay, I said. If it's minor, I'll check it at home. His expression changed, just slightly, from helpful to irritated. It's not safe to drive like that, he said firmly. I'll risk it. We locked eyes, and for a second, everything else disappeared. The snow, the cars, the noise. It felt like a test. Then traffic ahead started moving. Engines revved. The moment broke. I got back into my car and locked the doors immediately. As we started rolling forward, I checked my mirrors. His SUV stayed close. Too close. Every lane shift I made, he mirrored. When traffic finally cleared and speed picked up, I moved into the right lane. He followed. My heart started pounding. This wasn't about debris under my car. I took the next exit suddenly. He took it too. The road off the exit was nearly empty, snow covering the shoulders, few street lights. I felt panic rising in my throat. I called 911 and put it on speaker. It's probably nothing, I told the dispatcher quickly, but a man is following me. Stay on the line, she said. I sped up slightly. So did he. I turned into a gas station up ahead. Bright lights, cameras. He slowed but didn't turn in. He drove past. My chest loosened for half a second, until I saw him break 50 yards down the road. He pulled into a dark parking spot and stopped, waiting. The dispatcher told me to stay put until an officer arrived. I watched his SUV sitting there in the distance, engine running, headlights off, just waiting, for 15 minutes. Then he drove away. Police came, took a report. They checked under my car. There was nothing dragging, nothing broken, nothing loose, nothing at all. I thought that was the end of it, until 2 days later. I was at work when one of the security guards approached me. Is that your car? He asked, pointing to the monitor. My blood ran cold. On the screen, the same SUV, parked across the street. Snow melting off the hood, engine off. I felt dizzy. How long has it been there? I asked. About an hour. I couldn't breathe. He wasn't random. He'd followed me from that night. He'd found my workplace. Security called police again. This time, they caught him as he tried to leave. When they searched his vehicle, they found zip ties, a roll of duct tape, a blanket, and a printed photo of my car, taken from behind on the highway earlier that week before the snowstorm. He hadn't just noticed something dragging. He'd already seen me, already chosen me. The officer later told me something that still makes my stomach twist. He was waiting for you to pull over somewhere less crowded, he said. Storm conditions make it easier, fewer witnesses, slower response times. The traffic jam ruined his plan. Too many people, too many variables. The snow gave him cover, but it also trapped him in plain sight. I think about that moment when I crouched behind my car, the way his hand hovered near my back. He wasn't checking for debris. He was calculating. Distance, timing, weight. I was seconds away from being forced into the back of that SUV in the middle of a snowstorm, surrounded by cars that wouldn't have seen a thing. The most intense part, he never raised his voice, never grabbed me, never threatened me. He just offered help and waited to see if I'd isolate myself enough to make it easy. Now, whenever someone tells me something's wrong with my car, I don't get out immediately. I drive to somewhere bright, somewhere crowded, somewhere with cameras, because sometimes danger doesn't look aggressive, it looks patient. And sometimes the difference between surviving and disappearing is refusing to crouch down when someone tells you to. It started with a noise complaint. I live in a newer apartment complex. Key fob entry, security cameras, luxury living, marketing. The kind of place that makes you feel insulated from the world. One Thursday night around 10:40 p.m., someone knocked on my door. 3 firm knocks. Not aggressive, not soft, just confident. I wasn't expecting anyone. I checked the peephole. A man stood in the hallway wearing a maintenance uniform, dark polo, khakis, name badge. He looked mid-30s, clean-cut, calm. I cracked the door, but left the chain on. Yeah? Good evening, he said politely. We've had a noise complaint from downstairs. Something about banging or heavy movement? I frowned. I've been sitting on the couch all night. He nodded sympathetically. Probably pipes, just protocol to check. He glanced past me into the apartment. That made me shift slightly to block his view. Well, it's not me, I said. Mind if I step in for a second? Just need to listen near the floor. Something about the way he said it made my stomach tighten. Can you call the front office, I asked? Have them confirm? He didn't hesitate. Office is closed. I'm on after-hours rotation. What's your name, I asked. He tapped the badge. Ryan. The badge looked real, but I couldn't read it clearly through the narrow opening. I'd rather call the office in the morning, I said. His expression didn't change. Still polite, still calm. Totally understand, he said, just trying to prevent escalation. Escalation? That word lingered. Okay, I said carefully. I'll keep it down. He held my gaze a second too long, then smiled faintly. Appreciate it. He stepped back. I closed and locked the door. For about 10 minutes, I felt silly for being suspicious. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I didn't answer. It buzzed again. Then a text came through. Probably easier if I just come in and show you. My blood went cold. I stared at the message. Another text. I can hear you walking around. I stopped moving immediately. My heart started hammering so violently I thought I might pass out. He couldn't hear me. The building has concrete between the floors. He was guessing, testing. Another message. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. I went to the window and peeked through the blinds. In the parking lot below, a white van, engine idling, lights off. I felt like I couldn't get enough air. I called the front office emergency line, straight to voicemail. I called 911, whispered everything. The dispatcher told me to stay inside and not respond. 2 minutes later, my doorknob moved, slowly, like someone testing it. Once, twice, then the faint sound of metal scraping. My brain struggled to process it. He had something in the lock. I grabbed a kitchen knife. I don't even remember walking to get it. The chain rattled. The door pushed inward slightly. He was trying to bypass it. Police are on the way, I shouted, my voice breaking. Silence. Then a soft laugh from the other side of the door. Not loud, not hysterical, just amused. Are they? He said calmly. My entire body went ice cold. He knew response times. He knew he had a window. The scraping continued, then stopped. Footsteps retreating. I ran to the peephole. He was walking down the hall calmly, not rushing, like a tenant heading home. 30 seconds later, I heard the stairwell door open, then nothing. Police arrived 4 minutes later. 4 minutes that felt like 4 hours. They checked the hallway cameras. The footage showed him knocking on my door, but the angle didn't capture his face clearly when he turned away. The van? Stolen plates. The uniform? Not from our maintenance company. The officer told me something that made my stomach twist. He's done this before, he said. Noise complaint is common. It gives them a reason to be at the door. Them? Plural? They checked my building's security logs. No maintenance worker named Ryan. No after-hours rotation that night. But here's the part that still makes my hands shake. When they inspected my lock, they found faint scratch marks. Not from that night, older ones. Someone had tested it before. Maybe days earlier, maybe weeks. I asked the leasing office if anyone had reported similar incidents. There had been one, 3 months earlier, different building, same complex. A woman let a maintenance worker in for a supposed leak inspection. He assaulted her, left before she could identify him clearly. No arrest. I moved out within the month. New place, new locks, security bar on the door. But sometimes, when someone knocks unexpectedly, my body reacts before my brain does. Heart racing, hands sweating. Because what still terrifies me isn't how aggressive he was. It's how calm he stayed, how polite, how procedural, like he had a script. And if I had opened that chain, even just a little more, he wouldn't have forced his way in violently. He would have stepped in smoothly, confidently, like he belonged there. And that's what makes it intense. The idea that the difference between safe and gone was the width of a chain bump. I didn't think much of it at first. It was just a Facebook message from someone I didn't know. "Hey, I think you used to babysit my niece a long time ago." Random question. It came in around 9 p.m. I almost ignored it, but the profile looked normal. Real photos, friends, posts going back years. I replied, "I babysit a lot of kids. What's her name?" He sent a name that sounded vaguely familiar. I couldn't place it, but it had been years. "She remembers you had a small scar on your left wrist," he wrote, "from a dog bite." I stared at the screen. I do have a small scar on my left wrist, but I don't remember ever telling any kid how I got it. "Maybe," I typed. "Why?" "She's writing about childhood memories. Wanted to confirm." It felt harmless, a little odd, but harmless. We messaged back and forth for maybe 15 minutes. He asked what I was up to these days, if I still lived in the same town. I kept my answers vague. Then he sent something that made my stomach tighten. "Crazy you still live near Pine Ridge Apartments." I stopped typing. I hadn't told him that. "How do you know that?" I wrote. "You posted a pic last year. Recognized the building." I scrolled my profile. I had posted a photo once on my balcony. You could barely see the brick behind me. He would have had to zoom in, really zoom in. "That's old," I said. "Still counts," he replied. "Nice place." Something about the way he said it didn't feel like a compliment. I stopped responding. He sent one more message. "Sorry if this was weird, just curious." I didn't reply after that. I forgot about it. Until 3 nights later, around 1 a.m., I woke up thirsty. As I walked toward the kitchen, I noticed something through the slats of my blinds. A car, parked across from my building. Engine off, headlights off, but positioned directly facing my unit. That's not unusual by itself, except it was idling. I could see the faint exhaust in the cold air, and it didn't move. I watched it for 5 minutes. 10. Still there. I felt that slow creeping dread start to build. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I didn't answer. A text came through. "You awake?" My chest tightened so hard it hurt. Another text. "Kitchen light looks better than the bedroom." My body went completely cold. I turned off the kitchen light instantly. Darkness swallowed the apartment. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely type. "Who is this?" 3 dots appeared immediately, then disappeared. Then, "Just checking on you." I felt like I was going to throw up. I peeked carefully through the blinds again. The car was still there. I couldn't see the driver clearly, just the silhouette, watching. I called 911, whispered everything. The dispatcher told me to stay away from the windows. 2 minutes later, the car's engine revved. It drove off slowly, not fast, not panicked, just leaving. Police arrived shortly after. They took the number. Burner phone, no registered owner. I showed them the Facebook messages. By the time I pulled up the profile, it was gone, deleted completely. The name didn't show up in the search anymore. The officer asked if I'd given him any personal information. "Just general stuff," I said weakly. But my mind replayed every message. "Still live near Pine Ridge Apartments. Kitchen light looks better than the bedroom." He knew my layout, or at least which room was which. That meant he'd watched before, not just that night, before. I installed blackout curtains the next day, changed my privacy settings, locked everything down. For 2 weeks, nothing happened. Then one evening, I came home from work and noticed something that made my pulse spike. My bedroom window screen. It was slightly bent inward at one corner. Not torn, not destroyed, just tested, like someone had pressed on it. Seeing how secure it was, I called the police again. They dusted for prints. Nothing usable. The officer asked me something I'll never forget. "Has anyone else online ever asked about your living situation?" And suddenly I realized he didn't need to know me personally. He just needed access. My public photos, my tag locations, my routines, that balcony picture. The reflection in the glass behind me showed part of the parking lot, the angle of the building, the layout. He didn't randomly guess Pine Ridge. He studied it, studied me. And when he messaged about the babysitting story, that was just a test to see if I'd engage, to see how trusting I was, to confirm I was the right person. The scar comment still bothers me the most because I don't remember posting anything where it's visible, which means one of two things. Either he zoomed in on an old photo so closely he noticed it, or he'd been close enough in real life to see it. I moved out within a month, different city, different apartment. Ground floor was no longer an option. But sometimes when my phone buzzes late at night from an unknown number, I feel that same cold wave of dread. Because the scariest part wasn't the car or the text, it was how easy it was. He didn't break in, didn't chase me, didn't shout. He just used what I gave him, a photo, a reply, a few minutes of conversation. And from that, he knew where I lived, what room I was in, and when I was awake. Sometimes I think about how many strangers scroll past our lives every day, most of them harmless, but it only takes one who isn't, one who doesn't need to force their way in, because they're patient enough to wait outside, in the dark, watching your lights turn on and off. I don't use ride shares anymore, not because of what happened during the ride, but because of what happened after. It was a Sunday night just after 11 p.m. I'd stayed late at a friend's place watching movies and missed the last train home. I ordered a ride share without thinking twice. I'd done it 100 times before. The app showed his name, Mark, 5-star rating, over 4,000 rides. That mattered to me at the time. His car pulled up exactly where the app said it would. Dark sedan, clean, no damage, no red flags. I got in the back seat. "Hey," he said, glancing at me in the rearview mirror. "Rough night?" "Long one," I replied. He nodded, pulled away smoothly, and turned the radio low. For the first few minutes, everything felt normal. Then he said, "You live alone, right?" I blinked. "What?" He shrugged. "Just guessing. Most people who get dropped off there do." My stomach tightened. "How do you know where I'm going?" I asked. He tapped a screen on the dash. "App." "Right, of course." I forced myself to relax. A few blocks later, he said, "You ever feel like your place doesn't feel as safe at night as it does during the day?" That was when the silence changed. I didn't answer. He kept driving. "I used to think that was just anxiety," he continued, "but sometimes it's instinct." I watched the street slide by. We were still en route, no wrong turns. "I think I'll put my headphones in," I said. "Sure," he replied. "Just so you know, I don't mind talking." I put them in anyway, didn't turn anything on. A minute later, his voice cut through. "You don't lock the deadbolt." My heart slammed so hard it hurt. I leaned forward. "What did you say?" He didn't look back. "I've dropped you off before," he said calmly. "Front door, second floor, light flickers in the stairwell." My mouth went dry. "I don't remember you," I said. He smiled slightly in the mirror. Most people don't. I grabbed my phone discreetly and opened the app. His route was still correct. ETA unchanged. "You shouldn't say things like that," I said. "That's not okay." "I know," he said softly, "but I wanted to see if you'd react." The car slowed as we approached my street. "You can let me out here," I said quickly. "I'll walk." "That wouldn't be smart," he replied. "It's late." We pulled up in front of my building. I didn't move. "Trip's over," he said. "Have a good night." I got out and stepped back immediately, watching the car. He didn't drive away. He sat there, engine running, watching me. I stood frozen, keys clenched in my hand. "You coming inside?" he called through the open window. "Good night," I said, backing toward the entrance. He laughed quietly. I went inside and locked the door behind me, heart racing. From the stairwell window, I looked down. His car was still there. 5 minutes passed. 10. Finally, he drove away. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I checked the app to report him. His profile was gone. Not suspended, gone. No record of the ride. Customer support told me there was no matching driver data for that time slot. That alone should have terrified me. But it wasn't the worst part. 2 nights later, around 2 a.m., I woke up to a sound, a soft click, then another, my deadbolt. I lay there, paralyzed, staring at the ceiling. The handle turned slowly, once, twice, then stopped. I grabbed my phone and called 911 without making a sound. While it rang, I heard him speak, quietly, right outside my door. "I told you about the deadbolt," he said, almost gently. "You should have fixed it." I started screaming. The dispatcher heard everything. Footsteps ran down the stairs. By the time the police arrived, he was gone. But the lock showed fresh tool marks. Not from that night, older ones. Someone had tested it before. They pulled footage from the building camera. The angle caught his face as he walked in earlier that week, wearing a delivery jacket. Different day, different excuse, same man. They never caught him. No confirmed identity, no license plate. Nothing tied him to the app anymore. But here's what still keeps me awake. When I think back to the ride, I realize something. He didn't ask where I lived. He didn't confirm details. He already knew. That ride wasn't about getting me home. It was about seeing if I'd notice, seeing if I'd lock the door, seeing how easily fear would show on my face. And sometimes when I hear a car idle outside late at night, I don't look because I'm terrified I'll recognize the silhouette in the driver's seat, smiling, waiting to see if I learned. I remember the exact moment I knew something was wrong. It was a Thursday night. I had just finished my shift at the hospital and was walking to my car in the dimly lit lot. Most nights it's fine, just the occasional drunk person wondering. But that night, something felt off. I had parked on the far side of the lot. My car wasn't visible from the main entrance. As I approached it, I saw a figure standing between two cars, dark coat, hands in pockets, head down, watching. I slowed down, pretended to check my keys. The figure didn't move, didn't look up. My chest tightened. I unlocked my car and slipped in quickly, started the engine. The figure turned slightly as I rolled forward, revealing a face that made my stomach drop. I recognized him from earlier that week in the ER waiting room. A man who had been sitting quietly, watching patients, not asking questions, just observing. I locked the doors. My hands trembled on the steering wheel. That's when I saw his car pull up behind mine. Not close, not aggressively, just enough to block the exit. I tried to stay calm. He didn't approach. He didn't honk. He just sat there, waiting. I took a deep breath and shifted into reverse. He mimicked my movement, keeping the same distance behind me. Every turn I took in the lot, he followed, slowly, deliberately. I finally hit the main street. He stayed behind, not telling aggressively, but enough to let me know he knew where I was going. I called 911. The dispatcher told me to keep moving, stay in well-lit areas. The entire drive home, I couldn't shake the feeling of his presence, not just outside the car, but in the car, in my mind. I reached my street. I live on a quiet cul-de-sac. I slowed, watching for him. And then I saw him step out of his car onto the sidewalk just a few houses down. He wasn't running. He wasn't trying to hide. He was just walking toward my house, calmly. I pulled into my driveway, ran inside, locked every door, every window. I called 911 again. This time, the dispatcher stayed on the line while I watched from the window. He stopped at my property line, turned slowly, looked straight at me through the living room window, then he smiled. Not a friendly smile, a knowing smile. Like he had been planning this for days, weeks, maybe months. He walked away slowly, never ran, never made a sound, just disappeared into the dark. Police came minutes later. They found nothing. No car, no prints, nothing. Weeks later, I realized what had made it truly terrifying. He didn't need to break in. He didn't need to attack. All he needed to do was watch, wait, make me see him, and that was enough. Because I knew he could be anywhere, and I would feel powerless until he decided otherwise. I don't walk to my car alone anymore. I don't leave the lights off. And some nights, I still sit by the window, hoping he never comes back, but terrified that he might. I've never been scared like that before or since, and I can still feel it in my chest when I think about it. It started with a knock. I was alone in my apartment midweek around 11:30 p.m. I'd been binging a series, headphones on, lights low. My street is quiet, usually silent, the kind of silence where you notice the sound of your own breathing. 3 sharp knocks on the door. Not the casual, hey neighbor knock, sharp, insistent. I froze. No one ever comes by at this hour. Not friends, not delivery, not maintenance. I pulled off my headphones and leaned against the wall, waited. Nothing. Knock again. 3 taps, exactly the same rhythm. My phone was on the counter. I grabbed it, debating calling the front desk. I didn't. I was stubborn. Maybe it was a neighbor. Maybe it wasn't urgent. I peeked through the peephole. No one. Just the shadow of someone stepping back into the hallway. I exhaled slowly. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe my mind was playing tricks. I returned to the couch, tried to ignore it. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. I should have. The text read, I'm outside. My stomach dropped. I didn't respond. Another buzz. Don't ignore me. Panic started clawing at me. I thought about calling 911. What would I even say? Someone is outside my door? Would they believe me? Would they even arrive in time? I grabbed a kitchen knife and held it behind my back. I crept toward the door, every step deliberate. Another text. I can hear your TV. Turn it off. I dropped to the floor behind the couch, heart hammering, every muscle tensed. I could hear the faint scuff of shoes in the hallway. Not running, not shuffling, just walking slowly. Then the doorknob rattled. I froze. Just a soft jiggle, nothing else. Then silence. I stayed on the floor for what felt like an hour, though it was only a few minutes. Then I heard it, the softest whisper. You shouldn't hide. I almost screamed. I didn't. I called 911, whispered everything. The dispatcher told me to stay low, lock the doors, and don't make a sound. Then the door moved again. Harder this time. A little more force. I could hear breathing. Calm, controlled, not hurried, not desperate, not angry, just present. I held my knife tighter, and then I saw movement through the peephole. His face. A man, mid-30s, shaved head, dark eyes that seemed to pierce through the peephole. He wasn't yelling. He wasn't forcing the door. He was testing it. Patiently, slowly, calculating. Come on out, he said softly. It'll be easier. The calmness made it worse. Not aggression, not shouting, not threats, just confidence. The confidence of someone who believes they already have control. I stayed silent. He moved his hand to the handle again, tried to jiggle it. Nothing. Locked. Deadbolt engaged. Another text buzzed my phone. You're very cautious. I like that. I didn't respond. I didn't even breathe. Then silence. For minutes. Finally, I heard him walk away. Not running. Not panicked. Just leaving. Footsteps fading down the hall. Police arrived 10 minutes later. Cameras in the hallway caught him leaving. He was wearing what looked like a maintenance jacket. Not my building's uniform. He carried nothing. No bag, no tools, no badge. Just him. No one could identify him. No prints, no name, nothing. But here's what haunted me the most. The messages. The knowledge that he was watching me before he ever knocked. That he knew my routines. When I came home, when I watched TV, when I got up for a drink. The next night, I found a note slipped under my door. Small, handwritten, neat. Don't lock your window tonight. I won't enter if it's open. The police couldn't trace it, and I realized something that still makes my blood run cold. It wasn't about getting inside. It was about control, watching me, knowing I was helpless to stop him without exposing myself, knowing he could step in at any moment, and I would have no choice but to comply. I moved out a week later. I still think about that night, the way he whispered through the door, the way he knew I was on the floor, the way calm, patient people can be the most dangerous of all. Because sometimes the most terrifying thing isn't violence. It's the quiet, methodical knowledge that someone can be anywhere, watching, waiting, and all you can do is pray they decide to leave. I still remember exactly how it started. I had just gotten home from a late shift at the diner. It was past midnight. The streets were empty, snow lightly falling, and my apartment building's parking lot was dimly lit. Usually quiet, usually safe. I parked my car in the far corner, farthest from the building, because I liked the extra space to maneuver. I turned off the engine, grabbed my bag, and started walking toward the entrance. That's when I saw him. A man standing near the far end of the lot, dark hoodie, hands stuffed in his pockets, face partially shadowed, just watching. At first I told myself he was just another late night driver, waiting for someone, but my gut tightened when he started walking toward me. Not fast, just a slow, deliberate pace. I sped up slightly. He matched my pace. I fumbled with my keys, heart hammering. When I got to my building, I swiped my key fob and hurried inside. He paused at the door, just outside the glass, and looked straight at me. His expression was calm, almost satisfied. I locked the door behind me. I thought it was over. It wasn't. The next morning, I noticed something on my doorstep. A single black envelope. No return address. Inside, a note. Nice parking spot. Might want to check your locks tonight. I laughed nervously. Probably a prank, I told myself, but my stomach didn't relax. That night, I double-checked every lock. Deadbolt, chain, window latches. I even moved my bed so I wasn't directly in line with the door. Around 1 a.m., I woke up to a sound. A soft tap. Metal against metal. I froze. The sound came from my balcony door. I have a sliding glass door I thought I'd locked. It was just slightly ajar. I held my breath. The snow outside muffled everything else. My phone was on the nightstand. I grabbed it slowly and dialed 911. Whispered everything, not moving a muscle. Then I heard a voice, low, calm, from the balcony. You shouldn't be awake. I could barely process it. I slid under the covers, knife in hand, listening. The balcony door rattled lightly. Not enough to break in, just enough to let me know he was testing it, watching, patient, calculating. Minutes passed, then footsteps retreating, slowly, carefully. The next morning, I found footprints in the thin layer of snow on my balcony. Small, clean sneakers, too small to belong to me. I called the police. They dusted for prints, nothing. For weeks, I thought it was over. I installed cameras, extra locks, motion sensors. Then one night, I got a text, unknown number. You're sleeping too soundly. My blood ran cold. I didn't respond. Another buzz. I can see your curtains twitch. I ran to check the camera feed. Nothing visible outside. No movement. Just the empty lot. But I could hear faint tapping through the window microphone. Like someone running their fingers along the balcony railing. I called 911 immediately. They said to stay on the line until an officer arrived. I sat in the dark, frozen, knife on my lap, listening to the tapping get slower, then stop. By the time the police came, no one was there. No prints, no car, no trace. Weeks later, I realized something. He didn't need to force his way in. He didn't need to make noise. He only needed to know I could see him, that he could get inside if he wanted to, and that I had no way of knowing when he might try. I moved. New city, new apartment. Every window locked. Lights on timers, curtain always closed. But sometimes when I'm alone at night and I hear a soft tap outside, on a railing, on a pipe, on anything metal, I feel that same freeze in my chest. Because the most terrifying thing isn't what someone does when they get inside. It's what they can do while you're still awake. And knowing it, knowing they're patient enough to wait, to test, to watch, and you can't stop them. Hey guys, thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe. This channel is brand new and it helps a lot. This is my first time reading scary stories and narrating my own video, and I hope you enjoyed it. The next one will be posted soon. I hope you tune in.